Today we welcome Mr. Allen to our show Amazing Mentor. Mr. Allen is an inventor, an entrepreneur and a pilot. He doesn't know the word impossible and he loves to take challenges. He has 2 Emmy awards in his basket and he is the founder of Alcoff Pro. It's a great pleasure to welcome Mr. Allen to our show. Welcome Mr. Allen.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
So tell us about your journey as a pilot and as an inventor.
Yes, I have quite a long and colorful history, I guess you could say. I was, when I left school, I became a pilot. I went to flight school. Through high school and my early career, I was a hot air balloon pilot. I flew hot air balloons around the United States and through France. It was a wonderful way to live, but maybe not a great living. So I moved from one position to another, and I was offered a position with a friend to start in a television production company with him. And he had sold ABC that we could do some really cool, innovative things that hadn't been done before. And they loved the idea and they said, go ahead and do it. The only problem is we had no idea how to do it. So we listened to everyone tell us, no, it can't be done. And that is what happens when you're a real entrepreneur. Everyone says, can't be done. No one's ever done it before, so why would you want to do it now? That's not the way we do things. Things don't happen that way. Things don't work that way. And the reality was that no one had ever seen a small camera back then. And we decided that we should be able to take the electronics from the camera and the lens and the imaging chip and separate them. That was a completely novel idea, and there wasn't a manufacturer in the world that was willing to tackle it. So we looked and we hunted and we spoke, and we finally found one manufacturer in Japan who would take on the challenge. And the only question was how much and how fast. The first camera cost us $1.2 million. That was in 1987 dollars. It took over a year to design it and build it and produce the first one. And we actually ordered 4 cameras. The other the 3 following cameras weren't so much. They were only about $100,000. And the picture for the time was amazing. It was like nothing you'd ever seen. We could take this little 1-inch cube with a lens and put it under a bobsled, on a skier, on a helmet. We put them everywhere for the 1988 Winter Olympics. And we had an engineer who was assigned to our group. We were a small group. There were only 5 of us, and plus this one engineer. And every time we tried to put a camera on something else, he would go, no, they'll never use that picture. They'll never use that video. Well, why won't they use that video? Because they never used it before. You idiot. We never had these images before. So we developed the selfie stick. We had remote control cars running on ice with pucks between skaters' feet. The image, or the concept of the image, you might say, was fantastic. But the camera, by today's standard, leaves a lot to be desired. The picture really sucked. But for the day, it was the best thing we ever had. So we got home after the Olympics and found out that we were nominated for an Emmy. And I'm going, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't believe anybody. I thought they were pulling my leg. And they told me, get a tux and we're going to dinner. And I got a tux and we went to dinner. And sure enough, we walk into the room and hear all these tables. And they're big statues of Emmys. And we won an Emmy. We won an Emmy for the first helmet cam on live television. And I go, you know, my first broadcast job, maybe I should stick with this business. Subsequently, I was nominated for 6 Emmys. I won twice. I also developed the first slow motion camera for playback in sports by taking industrial cameras that were made for working in factories and going to a machine shop and rearranging some optics and lenses, and I attached one of these huge broadcast lenses, you know, the big box that you see on the cameras. Well, I attached a little high-speed camera to that. It was about $250,000 camera, and the first shot was for a slow motion replay. The first time I turned it on was at Shea Stadium. It was a Met game, and we had set the camera up as the low home camera, so we were the camera right behind home plate, behind a screen. And the first pitch that I shot, batter swings and breaks the bat. We were shooting it at 500 frames a second. Tim McCarver was calling the game, and he went wild. Here we were rocking back and forth, and you could see the bat break. You could see it bend and then break and splinter. It was amazing. And that was a pretty wild event. So, again, people said, it can't be done. You can't do it. There's no way. And you know what? There always is a way. It may take time. It may take hunting, scratching, scraping, but eventually you can get it done. Right now, I've moved forward, and I actually built a camera that was designed to compete with the GoPro. And we were selling it on Amazon, and it was the equivalent of the Black 7. I think it was a little better than the Black 7, but I'll let the end users decide that. We were in the process of getting ready to, or we were well along the development process of our professional camera, which blows away anything that exists now completely. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, our partners in China went out of the business, and we lost a lot of research and development. And so maybe when we get post-pandemic, we will be able to revisit that and reopen it and get that project going. But in the meantime, everyone said, yeah, we don't have PPE and we can't get it, and the masks are a problem, and they're difficult, and they don't work, and they're just, there are hundreds of reasons why people didn't want to wear them. Excuse me. So I set off on a journey to make a better mask. And we have been working tirelessly to develop a mask that's more comfortable, that is cooler to wear, that has some antimicrobial properties, that is reusable, not a lot of times, but 5 to 10 times, washable, so we reduce some pressure on landfills. The picture that you see behind me is a drum that we use to print a special formula that's been developed by Dow for us that helps us reduce the temperature inside the mask, making it more comfortable. So this is a very new and special technology that we are partnered, like I said, we're partnered with Dow to develop this. And we also have a molecularly bonded copper to our material, which allows us to reduce the smell that you get in the mask. It also helps to reduce any airborne infection and bacterial or viral. So it becomes a healthier mask. We are getting ready to do our final production test with that drum that you see behind me, and that we'll be doing next week, and then we'll run that material through our mask making machines to make sure that everything works, and within 2 to 3 weeks we should have our final finished product. Right now we are in the process of raising funds because, like everyone says, it can't be done, it's too late, there are 100 reasons why not. But we're in the process of trying to raise the money so that we can build the plant and we can be in production with new masks in under 90 days. And they will all be made here in the United States with raw materials primarily made here in the United States, so that we've shortened the supply chain and we're able to provide masks directly into the market quickly and effectively with high quality. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Knowing you, it seemed that you love to take challenges. As we know, your father was a doctor. Instead of following the same career path, you have chosen a totally different career path. First you became a pilot, and then you started inventing things. What made you choose different career paths?
Well, it's funny. My family history, I can start with my grandfather on my father's side, my father's father. He came over from Europe and jumped ship as an illegal immigrant into the United States. Oop, don't tell anybody. And he invented a number of processes for the film industry to be able to clean film and preserve film. He was part of the film industry here in New York, and when they went and moved a lot of the film industry to California, he said, they'll hate it out there, they'll be back in no time. Oops. But my father became a pediatrician, and he started his practice just a year before I was born. I'm not going to say the year. But in his practice, he was an innovator in medical processes and procedures. He specialized in renal care, and he developed treatments for premature babies that were in kidney failure that saved their lives. And there are many adults now who would not have made it out of the nursery if it wasn't for the processes that my dad started. On the other side of my family, my mother's father, he invented the machines that make the pulp for close to 90% of the paper in the world. He also invented the process and held the patents on the fiberboard that you see that's put into everything, all your furniture. And so I come from a family and a background of engineers, inventors, and people that wouldn't accept no and wouldn't accept that it can't be done.
So, as told by you about your grandfather, so was your grandfather your mentor and your inspiration to be an inventor?
It's funny. My father's father passed away a week before I was born. So I never had the honor or pleasure of knowing him. I got to know him through his accomplishments, through stories that my father and my grandmother had told us. But I never really got to know him. My mother's father, on the other hand, he was born, or my mom was born and raised in Sweden, and the company, he was in Sweden, and I spent many of my summers growing up in Sweden, and in fact I went to school to learn the language, which I've since forgotten, and I worked in their factory and test plants, working with different woods from around the world and evaluating how we could optimize machines to create paper from different trees. So that's where I really had much of my inspiration, how I learned to work with my hands.
So when and what made you think that you want to be a pilot? Was becoming a pilot your first career choice?
No, my original career choice was to go into medicine, and I was a pre-med student, but the problem with being a pre-med student was the fact that you had to be a student, and that was something I was never good at. If I had all of the computers and aids that we have now, back then, I would have had many degrees. But if you had to sit in a classroom and take notes in a notebook, and it just wasn't something that I did well. So then I went into flight school. I started flying hot air balloons actually in high school. You may know one of the most famous balloonists was Malcolm Forbes, the billionaire. And on one of my early training flights, I landed in New Jersey on the side of a road, and this big limousine pulled up, and this guy got out and he said, "That really is cool. I want to learn to do that." And no one really in my group really knew him or what he was about. So, yeah, come on out on Saturday and we'll give you a ride. And he came out on Saturday and he loved it. And by the following Saturday, he had hired a pilot crew, bought a balloon, bought a truck, and he was into it full time, and there was no looking back for him. And every once in a while, we would fly several balloons together, but it was quite a bit of fun. But that was my early one of my earliest careers. And again, it was flying a hot air balloon was something that back then few people knew, understood. There were only several hundred of us in the country. It was different, and it sort of went with my mantra of doing what everyone else can't or won't do. So that was fun.
So when you thought to be an entrepreneur?
I guess the idea of being an entrepreneur, when I started becoming one, no one really spoke of being an entrepreneur. People said, oh, you work for yourself, which was another description of being unemployed, which I guess applies to a lot of entrepreneurs now too. But I worked for other companies doing what they wanted the way they wanted it done. And I had other ideas that I felt were better, more effective. And I wasn't going to fit into the simple mold. So I thought that instead of working for a jerk as a boss, I'd work for myself, and then I'd have a jerk for a boss. And it has been a financial and emotional roller coaster. There are times where you can be a raging success, and other times not so much. So you have to be ready, willing, and able to take on the challenges, ride the roller coaster, and you have to be fearless. And when you're fearless, you have to know and commit to your ideas, commit to your concept, and see it through to the end. At the end of the day, when my daughter was young, she was a figure skater, and she loved it, but I always tried to push her to do more. And my direction to her was that if you don't fall down, you're not trying hard enough. But she was sort of like me, and she didn't fall down, and she did so well. And I've always been proud of her. But the idea of going till you fall down, really, really trying, working hard, being optimistic. I'm very often accused of being optimistic, looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, and not being realistic. But I guess the reality of an entrepreneur has to be that they have to create their own reality. But at the end of the day, the most important thing in my world, through my vision, is that every day I try and make someone smile and someone laugh. And I never treat a CEO better than a busboy. To me, everyone is equal. And the most important thing in doing any project and in any business is building a team. And the better the team you have, the better the project will be in the end. And I have been, I guess you could say, blessed with the ability to meet people and assemble a team to accomplish something. And I'm a quick study, so that the one thing I don't do is I don't pretend to know something that I don't know. Admit to what you know. Admit to what you don't know. When you don't know something, learn. Go to an expert. Go online and find what you know, or find what you need to know. Learn about it and become the expert. Or become well enough versed in it that, and you have access to the expert. So when someone says, I have a question, you go, I don't know the answer to that, but let me get right back to you. And then get the answer.
So every entrepreneur faces challenges. So what was your challenges as an entrepreneur?
The biggest challenge for an entrepreneur is, in a word, money. The hardest thing in the world is getting the money. And I'm dealing with that right now in that trying to build out the mask factory it's very difficult to get someone's attention and get them to reach in their pocket and write a check or pull out some cash, whatever size you're looking for. That has always been the most difficult thing. And what amazes me is that I see people with some of the craziest ideas that I think are lunacy, that I am convinced can or will never work. And in many cases that I really believe that people are taking advantage and going to the point where it's even maybe a scam, and they get funded. And then I know so many people who are like me, who are really working hard with the best of intentions, the best of plans, some of us raging successes, some of us not so much, and they don't get funded, and they have to fight for every dime. And there is no magic bullet for how to get the money. If there is, I haven't found it yet, and I'm perfectly happy to listen to anyone that has a better idea for me. But it's always an issue.
So every entrepreneur thinks that he should quit, and he keeps on continuing. So when was that situation when you thought that you should quit, and what motivated you to go on?
There are times where I think maybe I should have quit. But you don't really know that until you've gone a lot further than where you should have quit. You may call it stubborn. It's hard to label the reason or the idea. I have a great family. They've understood and supported my insanity for many years. And I don't think I'll ever quit. It's people ask, when will you retire? I will never retire. I enjoy what I do. Every morning I enjoy what I do when I wake up. I enjoy what I do during the day. I enjoy my family. I enjoy my work. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So there are many things which you invented. So tell us the list of things which you invented.
So I told you about the first helmet cam. I have done, I had helped develop a couple processes and some adaptations with our early hot air balloons. With airplanes, I developed some tools to help banner planes pick up the banners that they fly along the beaches, to pick those up easier. Let's see. Of course, the helmet cam. I was working with Adobe many years ago when they were working with QuickTime to do video editing. And while we were doing that, we were helping Apple in developing QuickTime. I shot the first all-digital television show where we recorded directly to a hard drive using a video camera into a computer, into a hard drive, never touching videotape. And at the time, the difficult part was that we couldn't coordinate the audio, and the video didn't lock, didn't get in sync, so they would fluctuate. So instead of doing people talking, we did a 13 puppet shows. And with the puppets, you have the luxury, or I'm not sure what to really call it, but we didn't have to be in locked sync. It was you had that extra ability to cheat the sound. I worked with Adobe doing Adobe Premiere. I was their #1 beta test site. They did not send out a new revision of Adobe Premiere until it had gone through my studio for at least a week or two. But I was proud of the fact that they couldn't send me a copy of a new piece of software that I couldn't break in 15 minutes, which drove a lot of their engineers kind of crazy. I was part of the team evaluating and the HD high definition standards, where I went down with the folks down at the Sarnoff Labs, identifying compression artifacts. I worked with another company that developed fractal video technology and was able to do video compression before any of this video that we see now and accept on television, or any of the video that we accept on a computer. I worked at CBS where we had to evaluate new cameras that were coming in. This was while I was developing slow motion cameras, and then I helped in the lab testing new cameras. In order to get a new camera many years ago to be certified for television production, it was a 6-month process before they would allow the images from that camera to be incorporated into broadcast television. Now, it looks that's round. That's a face. That's it. There, I see a smile. Good. Air it. That's what we have now, and I mean the quality of the images that we have now just far surpasses what we used to have. But the expectations are different now, and the entire television production concept is different. I was one of the first YouTube channels. My YouTube channel is Ultraslow, ULTRASLO without the W. And when I started that channel, I was using my slow motion camera technology. And when we were doing documentaries and shooting in film, we would have a clip that was 3 minutes long, and it was amazing. And we were just awestruck by the beauty or the detail, where we would see something in an athlete or in an insect or in an animal running, whatever. And we would see these amazing things, and then we would only be able to use 2 or 3 or 4 seconds of it in a television show. Everything else wound up on the floor. And that's an expression when you were shooting in film. If you didn't use the film, you would drop it on the floor. And So we had these wonderful shots that weren't used. So I decided I'm going to shoot slow motion, and there was this new thing in the world. It was called YouTube. No one had ever heard of it. And so I set up a channel there, and I had approached a couple of the networks through some friends to do a show, and they said, well, this slow motion stuff will never take off. Call us if you can get 1 million views. I got 1 million views. And I went, well, it's still never going to take off. Call us when you get 3 million views. Got 3 million views. Well, call us when you have 5 million. Okay, I got 5 million. Well, we're not really ready to move on this. I said, well, let me know when you are. As I approached 10 million views, all of a sudden, there were 3 television shows all doing slow motion that were copying the stuff that I was doing. So I guess the thing that you have to learn from that is don't wait for anybody. You have to press on, you have to go ahead. And I should have pressed further, harder, and faster to get those television shows done. I've shown over 500 million videos online. My YouTube channel has about 70 million views right now. It had over 100 million views, but during the rash of school shootings that we had some time back, I removed all of the gun-related videos because I just didn't want to encourage that. It was just a little thing that I thought might or might not help. I am a gun owner. I will always use them, but I think they have to be used properly, and I just don't want to be part of that other extreme.
So as you are inventor of slow motion cameras, so what was the best slow motion shot which you love?
Okay, well, the biggest success was popping a water balloon and having it go down a young lady's shirt. That got a lot of views. The next would be a ladybug when it opened its shell, and it would unfold its wings. They're folded in thirds under that shell. It unfolds the wings and then it takes off. It's just spectacular and fascinating. Something that I've seen ladybugs take off all the time and never had any idea. The next, I think, would be I have some wasps flying into a nest where they're carrying a drop of water as they're flying, and I thought that was very, very cool. God, there are so many of them. The fastest, most viral video that I got over 2 million views in 10 days was a match that I lit in slow motion, and it looks like a bubbling alien being just growing, and it's very, very cool. So I have a wide variety of things, and that was the greatest part of having that channel and working with those cameras, was that I could shoot anything. It was whatever my crazy little mind desired. I made an air cannon and shot tomatoes into watermelons. It's just all kinds of just fun things.
So you have both the experience of the job and of the entrepreneur. So what would be your suggestion to young generation? Should they do job and gain experience and then start their journey as an entrepreneur? Or should they start the journey of an entrepreneur directly from after graduation?
I have sort of a mixed concept there. My entry into television and television broadcast was because I was doing new and innovative things, not because I was a new innovator. It's because I didn't go to school. I didn't grow up in the industry. I had no idea what the right thing to do was. So I did my own thing. And I happened to be working with people who were crazier than I am, who would allow me and give me the slack and the latitude to do this stuff. So it's difficult to say. Sometimes to break the rules, it's better not to know them, and other times it's better to know them to break, so you know what you're breaking, and you can sort of control it and target it. So, in a word, what is the best way to start? Beats the hell out of me. I think it's all about being in the right place at the right time with the right people.
So are these your inventions which energizes you, or are there any other thing which you do as a hobby?
I think the most exciting thing that I did was the innovation and development of the slow motion for broadcast. There are a lot of people out there that want to take credit for it and they think that they were doing it, but the first one on broadcast was me. The earliest systems was me. And I take great pride in that. I enjoy it. Fortunately or unfortunately, politically, I'm not the best one to be doing a lot of that kind of thing. When it gets into the politics, I tend to be willing to tell someone where to go. And that may not always be the best thing to do. So, I guess that's it.
So what all are your hobbies?
Bet you can't guess that cinematography and photography might be there. I'm a avid scuba diver, and so I've developed tools for my camera to go underwater and get better underwater images. I love to be on a boat, but I don't get to do that much, even though I live by the water and my studio is on the water. I hope to change that in the near future. I spend way too much time online expanding my knowledge of things that are probably useless to the rest of the world, but I enjoy learning, and I enjoy learning about a lot of different things. I have worked at and attended many trade shows, both as a speaker in sales and also as a purchaser, or just there learning something, looking for something. So that to me is a lot of fun. It's a way to develop.
So when you invent things, where do you get inspiration from?
There is no plan, and there's often no inspiration. Sometimes if I'm picking up a camera and I'm trying to get a picture that picture doesn't come out quite the way I want it, and I go, how can I improve it? And then I go about doing something. That's sort of the way my process goes.
So you are the man who believes that there is nothing known as impossible. So what guidance and advice would you like to give to young generation?
How should they plan what?
Their career path.
I often think that the best plans are no plans. If someone says, would you like to? Don't let them finish the sentence, just say yes. If someone says, can you? Don't let them finish the sentence, say yes. Then go figure it out.
How would you define yourself?
Nothing is impossible.
So it was great talking to you, Mr. Allen, and I thank you for giving us your precious time. Thank you.
Well, I thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.